Welcome back. Are you gonna say we're live? Welcome back.
Hi. It's
Hi.
really cold here. I wish I was
I
back
know.
in Hawaii.
Yeah, we've been. Yeah, well, I feel like I've been holding down the fort.
You have. I got bit by a scorpion there, or stung, and also the day I left, some really poisonous snake washed up on the shore, and like everyone always told me that Hawaii didn't have snakes, but they have poisonous sea snakes.
Hawaii has no snakes?
That's what everyone has always told me. And I didn't think they had spiders until I got stung by a scorpion.
Scorpion's not a spider.
Oh, I thought they were an arachnid. What are they?
They may be an arachnid. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
All right. So
hold on. How's the audio? Those that are in the comments here, how are we doing as far as the sound? Is this good? Make sure that's working. Yeah, I think we're good.
All right. Today we are here to talk on Shrink Wrapped about another book, which I gave you guys more time for. And I have to say that the book did not get good reviews, but I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed hearing her side of the story. And it really made me empathize with her. So more than even I was empathizing with her before, but more than before. What do you think about the book?
I thought it did not. I don't know that it changed my perspective on anything. What I thought was interesting is when I did a reaction. I'm trying to think if you did a reaction with me, but I did a reaction to her story like a year ago. And in the comments, everybody goes, new data's come out. It's not Munchausen. You're an idiot for thinking it's Munchausen. Munchausen's, all the illnesses she had were real. Like there's like this big push from like the online community saying that she was, she had gotten away with murder and that she was really a vicious person. And
seriously,
I did not. Yeah. And so, I don't know in the comments, there's a lot of people that do not believe her story at all.
Well, I have to say that even before I read the book, I believed her story because it was documented by several healthcare providers that they believed her mom to have Munchausen by proxy. But the sad thing is, although that was well documented, like no one did anything. Like no one noticed that she wasn't in school. No one noticed that she didn't have all the things that her mother said they did, that her name had been changed several times in the medical records. Sharon says a scorpion is an arachnid. So yeah. So I feel like this is a case where a child got left behind by her dad. She doesn't have any ill will towards her father or the other family members, but they legit left her behind to be raised by a person that, was unstable with Munchausen by proxy. And due to that, like horribly abused this girl until they like your shirt. Until she was much older. So the book is Gypsy Rose Blanchard's memoir, My Time to Stand. And it's like an exploration of her life. So I thought it was good. It was interesting because she said there was so much she didn't know till she tried to start writing this book. So she had to uncover a lot more because she was so isolated from the world. And uneducated because she wasn't allowed to go to school. So, so you thought the book was okay, but didn't add anything to you?
It just didn't change. I thought it was good. I thought her, I think it makes it real. I thought her voice, I don't know if did I already mention that? Her voice sounded different here than it does when I've seen her before. The reading of it.
Well, I don't think you know what? You've always told me, like, women, especially that have a very little girl-like voice, is usually an indicator for trauma. And I feel like as she talks, she's stuck in that little girl.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was. Yeah. Well, first of all, I should say like that's not part of the diagnostic criteria, but that is definitely a thing that if you're a clinician and you hear that kind of a real childlike voice, it's often an indicator that someone's development was stalled early on because of abuse.
And hers was.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Okay, before we get into it, I
Mm-hmm.
did think it was interesting, like how the abuse is so generational.
Mm-hmm.
With her mother being abused by her grandfather. And I wonder if there was a psychologist that we know that could talk about Munchausen by proxy and if that is like a generational abuse situation. Or like, does it come from PTSD or trauma in your childhood for you to then develop Munchausen by proxy?
I'm embarrassed to say that the only psychologist that you have close by is me, who doesn't have that's a great question. Can I just make up an answer?
I want you to make up an answer, but then I also want you to do a legit video on Munchausen by proxy, because I learned today that Eminem suffered from, like, his mother had Munchausen by proxy. And so I feel like now we need to go deep.
So I am not an expert in this. I've never treated anybody over the course of my career. This is like I've only heard about it in theory, and I believe, and I'm embarrassed to say that I can't remember off the top of my head, but then they call it's a factitious disorder by proxy, or it's not the name of it is not Munchausen's by proxy. It's like facetious disorder.
Do you want to
fictitious
go get
disorder.
do you want to run down and get your DSM? I'll hold down the fort.
Okay. I was just going to make up an answer, but you want to get the actual DSM?
Yeah. Do you guys want him to get the diagnostic criteria from the DSM?
Oh, here we go. Thank you. Only in theory. Someone beat me to it.
Okay.
So the idea, I mean, we can talk about what it is, or we can talk about like why it happens, and the why it happens. Oh, I can't unplug that. Otherwise, sorry, we're having a technical issue. You got to get your own, because if I unplug it, it will unplug.
Okay, you keep talking. I'll grab the DSM too. Okay. Cool.
Do you know where it is?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know who I'm talking to, but the question is, if you're thinking about, at least what I think is interesting about it is, what's the mechanism of action? Why does someone get Munchausen's or factitious disorder? And I think there's probably different arguments. Certainly, trauma is a part of it. Like trauma is, I worry that when we talk about it here, that it seems like everything is caused by trauma, but the idea would be, imagine if you had the sense that you had very little value. Imagine if you had the sense that you were always alone. Imagine that you had the sense that no one would stick by you. And if you start hurting and then taking care of somebody else or doing it to yourself, what you're essentially doing is you're forcing the system and the people around you to give you the support that you want. So if you think about it, like while Dee Dee, it was, if you believe that this is what was happening, and I do, while she was hurting and damaging her daughter, she was also creating a dynamic where, every night, like you heard in the book, every night they had the same routine, and Dee Dee would make some, subpar meal, but they would get to watch TV together, and they had the whole thing. And by stalling her growth and stalling her ability to like leave the nest, Dee Dee was able to like continue to have this person who was dependent on her. And so when I think about it, like that's the mechanism, is like we're trying to, it's just a way to maneuver somebody to have to stick like in your life and not leave you. That's the way I would think about it. What do you think about it, Al? Why does how does it serve Dee Dee?
She gets attention. Mm-hmm. From like the doctors and stuff. Mm-hmm. She gets all this free. Can I unplug something here?
I wouldn't unplug anything. Do you need help? Put it under, sweetheart. Give it under here. You want me to do it?
Yeah. I feel like Munchausen by proxy is a way to get attention through. It's a it's a way to get attention from the doctors and stuff and from the community. Like they were able to get, their house built for them. They had free rent in a Ronald McDonald house. They had free gas given to them.
I think it's less malicious than that. I mean, I'm not saying I'm right, but I'm just my perspective on it would be that it's less malicious.
No, I think it's documented.
What?
That the reason they do it is for attention.
But why? But yes, but you're making it sound like, or I think you're making it sound like, and I think that when we talk about it, we make it sound like there's this like deliberate plot to victimize your daughter for the purpose of getting your house built. And I don't think that's what's happening behind the scenes.
Well, I feel like that's why, even though when she could walk and stuff, she would force her daughter not to walk because she didn't want people to. I'm just telling you what Gypsy Rose said. Like there was definitely, like if Gypsy Rose could never say what was really happening, her mom would squeeze her hand, like try not to let your legs move.
But do you think that, forget what Gypsy said, just let's make sure we're talking about the same thing.
Okay.
I'm not talking about what happened to Gypsy. I'm just talking about the mechanism at play in a mom when there's Munchausen's, when there's a parent that is keeping their kids sick for the purpose of some kind of self-fulfillment. Why do they do it? And I guess the question is, is the mom intentionally hurting the kid because the mom is trying to get material rewards from the community, or is the mom doing it for a deeper purpose?
I think all of the above. Like, I think she's wanting to be a martyr.
Yeah.
Like, look at me. I'm like taking care of this sick kid.
Yes.
And so I think it's all of it.
Yeah.
So like people would say that she looked like she had this really loving relationship. I mean, she was making her 24-year-old daughter, like, number one, she pulled out she took out her daughter's salivary glands. She never let her daughter eat real food, even though like none of that was necessary. And like, could you imagine knowing that your legs worked, but you had to, like, as a child growing up, fake it out?
But do you think if we had Dee Dee here and you asked her, are these treatments necessary? Do you think she would say, no, they're not necessary. I did this to manipulate the system?
Yes. I think she knew what she was doing.
Okay, so that's where the debate is, at least for me, is I understand, and just like really clear, I understand that what she did was that, and I understand that objectively what she did was absolutely do that, and she was aware of what she was doing. I understand all that, but I guess what I'm saying is I think if you talked to Dee Dee or any mom in her place, the mom would, as a protective mechanism, come up with reasons why this had to be done. The mom would protect her ego by saying, I'm a good mom because this kid needs X, Y, and Z. The mom conjures up this situation because what the mom really needs is connection. The mom really needs someone that's dependent on her. The mom really needs to feel like she's adding value. And so they create this world that allows them to like keep up the facade.
Yes, but I still think she knew what she was doing in order to keep. I don't think she was in denial about what she was doing, because it's like deliberately changing her name to changing her daughter's age so her daughter would lying about like symptoms.
Yeah.
So I think she knew what she was doing in order to keep her daughter and keep the attention and all the benefits that came with having an unbelievably sick kid, which turned out, I mean, it was crazy because one of the cancer doctors, I don't know where I saw, maybe I heard this in the book or if I saw it, but was like, she kept telling me her daughter had cancer, but she didn't know the diagnosis or the prognosis.
What are you talking about?
Like Dee Dee went to a cancer specialist and was like, yes, my daughter had cancer, but didn't have any of the medical records or the kind of cancer or the prognosis. Like, it was just all so awful. And it was like, why didn't you right there, or the allergist? And I wonder if I know the allergist, but why didn't the allergist say, like, she's not allergic to all these things? Like, you are doing a complete elimination diet of everything. I mean, she was basically starving to death because the only nutrition she was able to get was through her feeding tube until she was 24, which was just Pedialyte.
Well, she couldn't. She got all those teeth removed.
Her mom and her salivary. Her mom removed her teeth and her salivary glands. So this was a very prolonged abuse.
Very.
How do you think it impacts her sense of self? Like, have you seen anyone?
Is that a ChatGPT question?
I hate when you do that. No, it's an Allison question.
How do I think it impacts her sense of self? I think it does. Sorry, I'm writing a note. I think it does. I think I'm trying to think. That's such a big question.
You answer it for 1 second while I.
In the comments, how does it impact her sense of self? I mean, her whole life. Let me think of a more thoughtful response to this, to ChatGPT's good question here. That is such a nuanced question, and I think that the abuse that she experienced has created her whole entire identity. I think that she lived to make somebody else happy. I think that her needs were always secondary. I think she had no sense of agency, and I think that think about it this way: her like adolescent development never happened, and then she went right to jail, and then she got out of jail. Like we are sort of watching her real time try and act like an adult when she's never had, like, she's not gone through any of the correct development or normal typical developmental stages. And so I think she, even now as she's writing this book, doesn't really know who she is. I think if we asked her, she would say, yes, I do, and this is who I am. But she's really still crafting her identity, right? It takes, like, think about like someone's normal progression through their life, right? You have like your whole adolescence to figure out who you are, and most people don't even get there at the end of that adolescence. I think Dee Dee's sense of self is probably, or not Dee Dee's, I think Gypsy's sense of self is really sort of non-existent probably. And which is my sort of issue with this kind of like the way she's been treated by society is, you know, she goes to jail, she comes out, and then she is sort of deemed a hero, and we act like she is totally normal, and, you know, like there's no trauma, like that like this hasn't affected her, and she's got to go, you know, she's meeting with Kim Kardashian, and it's like she just moved from incredible abuse to prison to celebrity. Like there's been no typical development for her.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what I think is that like her whole life, she's been controlled. Like someone else controlled her. She talks about in the book, which I found super interesting, is that when she went to jail, she finally felt freedom. I'm like, oh my God. She's like, my legs started getting muscles because I would walk to the cafeteria. And I just was like, oh my God, could you imagine like going to jail and being like, oh, I feel free. So I think it's such a complex situation. You know, it's interesting that Nick character, how she aligned him. I mean, he was so dark, and because of her naivete, I think, and growing up controlled, like she did not see any red flags. She just wanted her mom to stop controlling her. And she felt like the only way out was this really dark human being. So she talks about Nick. She thought she was in love with him. She said he had like these fetishes for necrophilia and rape. And like she always thought it was like scary and dark, but she did not. He always said that like he would protect her, and her mom didn't like her voice. And so before this happened, her mom was getting ready to have her larynx, like an exploratory surgery on her larynx, which she felt was like cutting her throat again. She went under anesthesia over 100 times.
It's
It's
so
like
crazy.
so crazy. Like
It is crazy. I mean, at so many levels, but it is, I just need to sort of acknowledge that the healthcare system really failed her. It's remarkable.
and the school system.
Yeah. It's
I mean,
remarkable.
like no one ever checked up on her. And I do feel like, because they went to so many specialists, like everyone felt like, oh, well, someone else will do this. And I was talking to a friend who is a physician, and he has a patient that he feels is Munchausen by proxy as well. And he says he just has to document everything. And I was like, but then when do you take the next step? Because like, this is like literally you can see the progression of this girl that never was allowed to have hair. Her mom would shave her head and lied about her age, and was so awful to her.
What do you think about Nini's comment here that she oversexualizes her relationships in the public?
So I haven't followed her that closely, so I don't know. So I can't comment on that. She does talk about her sexuality and how she tried out women in prison. Wasn't her thing. But I haven't seen her in public, so I don't know.
No, but she does. She does, and I saw someone here in the comments talk about it. She's talked about her sex life with her, I think it was her ex-husband. I think that Nini, I think that she is, like, you can sort of think about it like she's a 14-year-old who's just had sex for the first time and now has a public stage. And she's like acting as if like, what does society want from me? How do I please people? How do I show society that I'm a grown woman? You know what I mean? Like all those kinds of things. And I think this is part of her finding herself is, I want to show everybody that I'm like something that's attractive and a strong woman. And, you can imagine her whole life. Like she had
a feeding tube until she was in prison.
I don't think she was popular with the young boys down the block, right, when she was growing up. And so like this is like finally she's in a position where she can try and do that, I think. I don't know. What do other people think about that? It's a good question, Nini.
You know what's crazy is she had a feeding tube when she, like, after she killed her mother, because they didn't take the feeding tube out till she, into her prison stay. And so, like, how did she think she was going to get away with walking around with, like, a feeding tube as a perfectly healthy human?
Yeah, she did not do it. Was not a well thought out murder. I didn't see. I guess apparently she said that her husband's D was fire.
Gross. I do feel bad. I mean, I feel so. She had no childhood, no adolescence, no 20s because she was in prison.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh.
And she, she loves her mom, and she says it, but she forgives her mom. And which I think is probably brings her. I mean, she understands. Like she forgives herself too, because she understands she just felt so controlled and she couldn't go through another surgery. So
the only in theory he asked if the murder didn't happen, where do you think Gypsy would be right now?
I think she'd be dead.
Me too. That's what I was going to say.
I think her mom was slowly, whether her mom knew it. No, her mom knew. I mean, like you're all of a sudden, like you're saying that she has cancer. You're saying that, and the doctors they're not like syncing records. They're not talking to each other. They're taking out salivary glands. I mean, it's only a matter of time till they do more. I mean, they already did a lot of, she had a feeding tube when she could eat.
Here, look, see books with Z. See, there's like definitely a contingent on the internet that thinks it's all bull.
But why? What do you think is a lie? Like books with Z, like how can you? Her mother made her stay in a wheelchair, from the time she was a little girl. Like how can we say that that's a lie? That is.
Oh look, not
what
this is. By the way, Books with Z, did you comment on my last video on this one? Because look, see, there's certainty. And this person,
But
Becca
who was-
Scoop, hold on. This Becca Scoops is a YouTube channel, and I don't know the channel, but I have heard that name tied to this. I guess there's a lot of, I don't know if this is a legit channel or not, but that's, I think, where people are getting a lot of the content about it, saying that it's not true.
I like, I'm sure there's many that it's just her memory. She's not that old. And when she did it, she was 24, definitely isolated from family, friends, not going to school. She wasn't allowed to go to school. She wasn't allowed to walk. And there's like records upon medical records that say that she probably has Munchausen by proxy. So I'd like to know what the Books with Z, like, how do you account for a little girl that had to spend her whole life like manipulated in that way? Maybe the book isn't true, but she didn't have a choice growing up. And she didn't have anybody else but her mom. But what are the lies? You keep saying lies. What are they?
They were in cahoots. The people who think that this was like a straight murder think, in Books with Z, you can tell me if I have it wrong, but the belief is that Gypsy and Dee Dee were in cahoots, and they decided intentionally, this is what we're going to do together to take advantage of the system.
From the time she was 6 years old.
Yes, I think that's the belief. Is that right? Is that right? Books with Z?
I agree with you. I think they were like, she had to, Books with Z. I agree with you. She was definitely in cahoots, but she was still a child.
See, this is, see, look. This is like, people are not wanting us to just agree with, there's definitely a movement on the internet that is not pro Gypsy.
Okay, well then how do you account for her being isolated from her father and the rest of her family and all the different, I mean, I just can't, I can't blame a child. I agree, you cannot kill someone. It's not the right thing to do. Also, you can't blame a child.
So here's the thing. Here's the thing I think is interesting about this is that if you look at the, like, what book, somebody else said it here. So if you think about pure fictitious disorder imposed on another, or Munchausen's, the idea is that it does, the intent matters a lot, right? Yes. And the question is, was this, was the mom, like, what was mom doing? Was mom trying to work with Dee Dee to manipulate the system and like doing it as a pair?
Dee Dee is the mom.
I'm sorry, I can't get him from whatever. Was Dee Dee using Gypsy? Were they in cahoots to do this thing? Or was Gypsy just a victim in this? And her mom is either, I sort of think it doesn't matter, is the mom intentionally doing it in an effort to manipulate the system, or is the mom doing it to manipulate the system but not consciously aware of that's the underlying mechanism? Like, I think the mom is doing it to manipulate the system, but the underlying mechanism she's not as aware of is that she needs Gypsy to be there on the couch with her at night. She needs to have the attention. I think that there's other mechanisms that drove the behavior, but I think the difference is on people on the internet that want us to do more research into it are saying, no, this was a deliberate con and Gypsy was involved in it.
I cannot, I do think Gypsy was involved in the con. She knew that she could walk, and she says it, and she knew that she could eat. But I think she was manipulated by her mother to for survival. Yeah. But I mean, you're right. I don't have the other.
I keep saying you're right.
Books with Zoe. I have to say, like, I don't have enough research in it. But the goal of this is not to talk in length about Gypsy Rose. We're just talking about her book, and that's what I read. So I can only comment on the book and what I was thinking about that.
Are you, I can't tell if you're upset. Are you?
No, I'm not upset. I just think it's like, I don't, it is sad if Nick was autistic. She does say
he was.
she does say he was off, but I don't think,
I mean,
he also made the decision to do it. So I don't think,
I feel like it's an interesting. I think this is why the story is interesting for a lot of people, is that people look at it and it feels different to a lot of people because there's a lot going on, which, by the way, is like this is what mental health looks like, is we don't really know what the mechanism was that was at play with Dee Dee. But I can tell you, I mean, I would argue, I don't know what data I would need to convince me otherwise. I'm very convinced that from a young age, Gypsy was horrifically abused. She was horrifically abused for years. And I don't think that even at the age of 10 or 11, a kid really knows what they're doing on any kind of large scale. So the idea that this was a deliberate con and that Gypsy was involved from an earlier age, I think it just doesn't fit. I think that, yes, maybe at some point later on, Gypsy sort of colluded with her mom, but I don't think that she was operating from, a place of knowledge, a place of any real perspective. I look at it and go, this is this is chronic, severe. It's like one of the most horrific abuse cases. It is the most horrific abuse case that I think I have heard of where the kid didn't die. And so then to look at that and go, and I blame the kid because at some level the kid was colluding, I think is wild. If she was and I think she did manipulate and maneuver Nick, I think it's also because that's what she was like. That's how she learned. Taught. That was her surviving, And so now you could debate. I do think that she maneuvered Nick. I don't think that Nick was. I think he's got a lot going on, and I think he was mentally ill. I mean, I know he was mentally ill, and she was manipulated. And so you could argue that for that, we don't care about the abuse background. Gypsy should have been in jail longer. I think I get that argument, but the argument that it wasn't Munchausen's, I still can't wrap my head around. Like what I would have to. I don't know what data I would need, but it would be really overwhelming for me not to think it was.
Well, and I'm just wondering if Alyssa Snyder is a physician, because she said that Gypsy Rose's everything, all those procedures were necessary, like teeth pulling and hair shaving. And so I was just wondering, are you a physician? If so, please state that. And then tell me what the chromosomal abnormality is that necessitated over 100 surgeries. I'm just curious, and then also necessitated her to not get out of a wheelchair when she could walk. Because I think, I'm just curious what that would be, and for my own knowledge.
What do others think? I feel like we got fired up there on the book club.
Well,
ChatGPT did not have that book club question, did it? She had low muscle tone.
I think that happens when you sit all the time. I don't know.
Books with Z. You're not going to convince Allison, but Allison may check out Becca Scoops because I have heard that when I did this I did a video on this, and the internet was outraged. It was people that had listened to Becca Scoops because apparently there's good data there.
No, I'm definitely open to hearing Becca Scoops, but I do feel like we have to be honest about chronic manipulation and how that can impact a child.
Okay, now I don't mean to. I feel like we're monopolizing this with this one. I don't mean to, but I have to ask the question: why do you not think that Dee Dee was slowly killing her? I guess maybe that's the crux of this. Is I look at it and think she was. I think she'd be dead right now had she not been. I think that Gypsy would be dead had Dee Dee not been murdered. With all the medications and the surgeries and the nonstop going to anesthesia 100 times is not healthy.
And just thinking about all the different doctors, all the different doctors you go to and the different medications, and them not knowing like the contraindications of the medications. There's so many things to think about. But Books with Z. Let's move on.
Yeah.
And I will definitely look into that because I do feel like that should be seen.
I do acknowledge that Books with Z knows more about this than we do. So like, she's asking us like, what medication? But I don't know the medication. So we have to move on. What about the book? Any other questions?
No, I don't. I feel like we got derailed a little bit.
That's okay. It's just good derailing.
I do think it was interesting why she said the reason she left her first husband. I thought that was interesting. Was because he tried to control her, and so she was like she wasn't allowed to have therapy in prison because they stated that she was too well mentally, but she read a lot of books in prison and she realized. So I mean, it makes sense that you would go, like, if you've been abused the whole time, it makes sense that you would go for more abuse.
But her first, tell me if I have it wrong, because maybe I didn't, not tracking it right, but wasn't her first husband the guy that was like stalking her when she was in prison? Not stalking, but prison pen pal?
No, I think that was her boyfriend, her fiance, and then he dumped her. And then she married another guy, but then she divorced him and then married that original pen pal.
So which one is the one that has the good D, and which one is the one that was controlling her?
I have no idea. I didn't hear that part, but I like don't want to. I felt like I already heard too much in the book about her sex life. It was so gross. Like she had to wear a diaper. She talks about it. I don't. What did you think about that part where she went to the movies and tried to do it with Nick?
Oh yeah. Oh, sorry.
She had a diaper on, and he like couldn't get an erection, but still tried. It was so gross.
I can tell you that would be a that would be a derailer for me.
The diaper?
Yeah, I think I'd have a hard time.
Could you imagine having to wear a diaper at 24?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. See, first husband.
All right. Well, so I feel like, what did anybody else think of the book? Because we talked about it. I thought it was a good book. I hear that it's fictitious from the audience, but would love to hear what you guys think about it.
Yeah, Ryan was controlling and had a fire D. Maybe the fire D was what was controlling.
What is fire D? Like he has red hair? What does fire D mean? Like it's on fire? Apparently he was very good in the sack. It was, hey, what do you mean? What does fire D mean? I've never, I
like his D, which I'm not going to say it because we'll get canceled on YouTube, but it's a male body part. Was very good.
Yeah.
Why are you?
I'm looking at, I feel like Books with Z and all think like they're very passionate about it. I just was wondering why.
I told you, look, I'm just telling you, I'm telling you, this is a place of passion for people.
Why are you so passionate about this story?
Because I think that a murderer got out.
Oh.
She wasn't charged. She murdered somebody in cold blood, manipulated somebody else to make a murder, to murder her mom, and got away with it. And now we as society act like she is this person to be adored. And I think there are people that go, wait a second, you're a murderer.
Yes. I don't think she should be adored, but I think like it's interesting. She like talks about how sad she is about what she did. And I agree. Like but we didn't make the decision for her to get out.
She's not mad at you.
No, I know. I just was like, it's like there's so much passion coming. His appendage.
What?
When I was like, what are you talking about? A fire D? And then she wrote appendage.
Yeah. Any other questions about Gypsy or thoughts? What'd you think?
Oh, Books with Z is mom's friend.
What?
Books with Z is Dee Dee's mom's friend. Oh, okay. That's the passion. Thank you, Lucy Poo.
Where are you seeing that?
Lucy Poo.
Lucy Poo, right here?
Uh-huh.
That's not what she said. Her mom and Gypsy were both frauds.
Oh, frauds.
Jeez.
I need to get my eyes checked.
Books with Z, like books with Z's like, what are you talking about? No, I'm not. Allison, I think you're hyperfixating on books with D, with Z.
Sorry, books with Z.
What else do you have? Any other thoughts?
I mean, I guess this is like what people are upset about is the media representation of her.
Yeah.
She feels like in the book, I don't know, Book with Z read her book, but
will you stop, honey, sweetheart?
No, because
you stop talking about books with Z. You're being derailed by books with Z. Okay.
I don't know if she read her book, but jeez. What do you like?
It's not you versus books.
She felt like the Lifetime movie about it was all lies. That's what Gypsy Rose said about it.
Look at this guy. C2 Leaper, you two so hot. You two are so hot. Whoa.
Oh, thanks. Chris, did you read the book to join us?
This is my cousin. I paid him. We paid him to join just to say that, make that comment. Sorry, what were you saying?
No, I just was wondering. I mean, this is what people are most mad at is how like the media has influenced the perception.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, can I play devil's advocate? So I think that, by the way, I have a major problem with that.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I think the media has done her a disservice, and I think the media has. I think the media has just done her a disservice because they've elevated her to this like status of someone who is an influencer, and they've prevented her organic growth.
Yes.
The media is, she was controlled as a youth, goes to jail, gets out. The guy with the fire D is controlling her, and the media is controlling. The media is controlling her.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I think she needs to be in intensive therapy for a long time, out of the public spotlight. If you think about someone who is a trauma victim like that, like they need to evolve and figure themselves out without any external pushing. Yeah. Having Kim Kardashian talk to you about being a woman or whatever that, or social media is like, that is not a, clinically, that would not be prescriptive.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like that is really negative. So I think the media has done a major disservice to her.
Yeah.
But can I just play devil's advocate against my own argument?
Yeah.
Okay. Is if you think that she was abused the way she was, if you think that she did what she could do to survive and that she would have been dead otherwise,
mm-hmm.
then isn't it, maybe it's nice that because of the traction that her story has gotten, she now has a way to make money. She's gone from the dredges of existence, just stuck there, a victim, and now she has money and status and attention. I mean, maybe another way to look at it is to say it's a nice thing.
Well, and she can draw, even if her haters are right, she can still draw attention to a very real problem, which is Munchausen by proxy, mm-hmm. which is happening. Which happens, and mm-hmm. I think probably goes way underreported.
Mm-hmm.
And kids are innocents in that. Not saying she is, but in general, kids are innocent and if they don't have anyone on their side, like where the doctors are just writing it in their notes, but nothing is happening, or the mm-hmm. teachers are like, I don't know, we haven't seen her in 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're leaving these people behind.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
David, I like that discussion of the book, and I liked the book, and I'm going to do some more research on it. What do you think our next book should be? I have some thoughts.
Well, I think the first thing is I always forget to tell people, if you like this live stream, please hit the like button, because I always forget to ask for you to do that. Makes a huge difference. And what book?
Well, and talk about the member.
What?
Talk about our members.
Oh, we have a members only channel. So if you join the members only channel on Pop Psych, so we are live streaming this to Pop Psych and to Shrink Wrap. There's two different YouTube channels. Pop Psych is the reactions to pop culture stuff. And the shrink wrapped channel is the one that the content is run from Allison. And it's like if you were Allison's best friend, what would you talk about? And it's like goal setting and habit changing and personal development stuff.
Yeah.
So that's one administrative thing, is those two channels. Subscribe to both, notification bell. And then on Pop Psych, we do have a members only channel where whenever I post a video on there, it's ad free for the members only. And Allison and I think in the future, sometimes I will do just members only live streams. And I think we've been lax on the last couple of weeks because you've been gone, but we usually do a members only video at least once a week.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I have a book thought, and I thought this would be fun, and also to get your aunt to read it.
Okay.
It's called Delicia, the epic history of Italians and their food. Do you want to do that?
That does not seem nearly as provocative as Gypsy Rose.
Well, I'm open to other ideas.
No, let's do it.
I feel like I always do memoirs, and I really like them, and but this will be a new one. So, do you guys have a food food?
Hey, but what are we going to talk? I don't understand how we're going to talk. What are we going to talk about?
Well, I think we should cook Italian food and talk about the book.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
we get a members only jacket? We should. That would be, if we get 1,000 members, we'll make members only jackets.
I think
maybe 10,000 members. And we'll
I'll make them so
jacket.
cute. I already know. I would have used my brands I like. But let me know too if there's a book that you guys are dying to read. I do know Gretchen. We want to read Gretchen Rubin's book. April 1 comes out, and if Gretchen Rubin wants to come on this book club, I would love it.
Okay.
I love Gretchen Rubin, and I'm going to read your new book.
I'm just writing the name of the book.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the next book that we're going to be reading.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a date for that, or will more to come? Hit the notification bell and you'll be notified when we do it, or do you want to tell them?
Well, I want to see.
long?
I think I don't know. I think we have to give them people at least 2 weeks because they don't like it when I do 1 week.
Haley, we've already done the book. Let them. You can
get it.
2 weeks ago we did it.
We're gonna let you find it. We did it. It was really fun.
Okay.
But if there's another book that you're interested in, let us know.
Oh, what about this one? Following for the release of.
Oh,
interesting. Yeah, I don't know anything about that story, but I can imagine that I could be.
I've been watching the Netflix on that.
Oh,
It's
have
really
you?
horrific. Yeah. It is. I don't know where I am with that.
Okay.
Will you take an idea for a show? Oh yes, I want it. We have heard about the Alec Baldwin one, and true fact, my twin brother looks like a Baldwin.
Your what? Your twin brother looks like a Baldwin?
Uh-huh.
Drew?
Yeah. Let's do the Baldwin one. I like the Baldwins.
We can react to it.
Okay.
We're gonna react to. We need to do at least one reaction to Love Is Blind.
Okay, and we're gonna
reluctant to do that though.
No, we're gonna do Love Is Blind.
And we will definitely do the when that book comes out, we'll for sure read it.
That is gonna be in September, but Gretchen Rubin, Dave, will you reach out to her and see if she will come on Pop Psych?
Yes, ma'am.
Because I love Gretchen Rubin.
Yes. Okay. We gotta when do they need to have this read by?
Let's see here. Got a calendar right here. How about March 5th or 6th?
Okay, what you got? Sweets, pick a date.
You know what? Another good book that we should read, which would be very controversial, we should finish reading it, is Elon Musk's book. Too controversial?
I don't think it's too controversial. I don't care about the controversy, but I think it's a thick book. People have to be all in on it. And I think we have to do one thing at a time. And the first thing is figuring out what's the date for Delicia. Do you want to do Wednesday the 5th? Or Tuesday the 4th?
I could do, well, the 4th is your son's birthday, so that's not happening.
Okay, let's do Wednesday the 5th.
Okay.
Okay.
I hope it's good. My mom said it was really good.
Okay. Okay.
My dad said we have to cook carbonara when he read the book. So apparently the carbonara section is really interesting.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. Thank you all. That was fun. Oh, Books with D. If you want to email us, I think I have it here is my email. If you have ideas for the show, how we can make it better, what you want us to talk about. Oh, I like tiramisu. That sounds like good.
Oh, I have made tiramisu with your aunt.
Yeah.
She makes a killer tiramisu. I know.
All right. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you.